about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love.
Okay, Ravensburg Jane Doe, day 3. So this morning, as you are going to see here, I let you get into my thought process a little bit and watch me take notes of what I feel is important. Again, this is very arbitrary because some people, in their investigations, they might not feel that certain things are important, but it's just the way I do things. So I wanted you to get in my brain for that. As I read a newspaper article and I see something, highlight it, circle it, write it down. Why is that important to me? And so you'll get to see that. So what I found out, there are a couple of things, and I'll let you watch right now as I go through my notes. First thing I had to do is get a Monster Energy drink. It used to be coffee, but I'm hooked on these Dreamsicle Monsters and never thought I'd be a monster drinker, but I am right now. Hopefully it's just a phase going through, but it's been a couple months. But go through that, drink that as I'm going through my notes, highlighting, writing down important things. Remember, it's important to go through a case file. Usually it's police reports. And for me, read it like a story. Let the characters develop in my brain. It's a story. There's things that are going to stick out to you, but I don't pay any attention to it. Just keep going. And then when I go back through it, now it's time to get meticulous and take notes. And those things that made my stomach gurgle a little bit or feel uptight, I write them down. That's the process I'm going to take you guys through now. Okay, so here we are on day 3 of Ravensburg Jane Doe. So today, right now, is note-taking time. So I've gone through and looked at all of the newspaper articles. There might be a couple more out there that I will find. I will go back through. But for right now, this is what I am going to do. So, get my trusty notepad here. You see I got lots of notes from lots of cases. It's Carrie Culverson, Lizzie Borden, Ray McNeil, Mark Heimball, Dolores Barron. Alright, let's get to a blank page. Alright, so don't mind my penmanship. Only I need to know what it says. So, this is for note taking. Now what I'm going to do is I got to spread out these articles. I have to start looking at them and trying to figure out, here's my template. When I first started the case, it basically tells me, it breaks things down. You see there in different categories. I didn't finish it, but I did start it. But what I want to do is look at this, and I want to highlight anything that I see that I want to go back to. It's much like looking at police reports where I will go through and read a police report, numerous times and let it sink in like a book, but then I go back and annotate and find things that stick out to me that I want to follow up on. So I've already read all these, so I've already let it sink into me like a story, like a book. Now it's time to go back a little bit more in depth, more meticulous, and find things that I want to follow up on. So, right here, right off the bat, is something in headlines that intrigues me, and I have to figure out fully dressed, because that's something. The partly decomposed body of a woman fully dressed, except for that she had no shoes and the hat was missing. Well, see, I got to figure out what that means. Is it because they wore hats all the time, or did she have like an indication on her head that she was wearing a hat? Lying over the bank. So she's over a bank. I got to find that site. Between Rauchtown and Carroll and Loganton, 2.25 miles. I already know all this. Big Rock State Forest Camp. I got to figure out when that name changed. Gruesome discovery. The body was only partially covered. See, this is what I'm talking about. Partially covered with leaves and light brush. Now, I know in a different article that we're going to go through, it says that she was buried. So, right there, I mean, in this article here, in a shallow grave. The body was found in a shallow grave. That's something that has to be followed up on. So, it makes such a big difference whether she was buried or if she was just thrown there, or if she was covered with partial brush and so on and so forth. All that's so important. Got my Monster Energy. Usually I would sit down with coffee, but I'm on a switch right now. All right. Oh, right here. This is something good. One hand rested on the woman's breast, but the flesh had disappeared from the bones. Okay. Now, why is that important? Well, we're giving a position of a body, and remember how I said things are visual. You want to be able to visualize things. So now, I know how she's laying. At least she has one hand on her breast. Could that indicate some sort of posing? Right now it doesn't appear that way, but you got to keep your mind open to such things. The description of the woman: medium size, and her hair was dark brown. So dark brown, that's been consistent in everything that I've read. So I'm going to write that down. Dark brown hair. Now the other things, remember the dress and everything, that has changed. So I might not write that down. She was well dressed, having a dark blue jersey silk dress. And it kind of cuts out here. Was without hat or shoes. Without shoes is big. Because if she was a victim of an accident, like how many women are going to be driving without her shoes unless the shoes are like high heels or something, but wouldn't they be found in the vehicle? It also could indicate that she was at somebody's house, killed there, and they didn't bother putting her shoes back on. Got to find out if removing shoes was a big custom back in the 20s or not. May have been a victim of foul play. Well, that's good reporting there. Location of site. This is important. The point where the body was found in the extreme west end of Nippenose Valley in Clinton County, a short distance from the Lycoming County line. Therefore, Coroner John Bailey of Lock Haven was notified, and he accompanied J.E. Brown. So all these people, I got to follow up. J.E. Brown, John Bailey. So we got the funeral director, the coroner. Again, they're not going to be alive, but they probably more than likely told somebody, or there's written record of it. So they're good names to follow up on. They arrived at the scene at 2:15. That's good for a timeline, but not really important in this matter. Of the scores of residents of Rauchtown in that section who have gazed at the body since found by the boys, none remember ever having seen the woman before. Okay, so she may not be from the area. Identification appears impossible. Well, we'll just have to see about that. Alright, let's go to another one. Boys find the body of a woman dead for over a month. Okay, that over a month thing, that's going to be subjective. But, so we're going to start looking for missing women from June 1st on, just to be safe. The partially decomposed body of a woman was found by a party of boy campers near Big Rock State Forestry Campground. Okay, we already know all that. Body is found in a shallow grave again, within a short distance from a road. Well, that's pretty arbitrary. Sorry I'm talking out loud here, but I'm trying to give you like access inside my head, questions that I ask myself when I'm going over reports. There has been no identification of the body, and from its condition, it will take medical examiners to establish her age. The features are in such condition that identification will be impossible. The closer examination of the woman shows a clear case of murder. Okay, well, if it's a clear case of murder, then how come you're changing it to an auto accident? 3 bullet wounds have been found in the body. The absence of hat and shoes has given rise to the theory that she was murdered somewhere else and the body taken there to be buried. Okay, I can get along with that. She had dark brown hair. Again, that's established. Was well dressed in a brown silk gown. See? How does that change from a blue dress to a brown silk gown? Underlings were of tan silk with pink garters. Now it's pink. I didn't read pink before. I read red. I read red. That makes sense. No shoes were found on her feet. The attention of the boys was attracted to the grave by the feet, which were exposed and protruding from the ground. Look at that. How does that say that she wasn't buried? She's buried if her feet are protruding from the ground. The campground is located, okay, I already know that. The body was found so close to the line. Alright. Already getting different things here. Shallow grave. Corner John Bailey, we already have that name. Probably been buried for a month. Again, she was buried. She wasn't tossed. If she's buried, what does that mean? That's premeditation. And remember, premeditation doesn't have to be 3 weeks in advance, 1 week in advance. It could be minutes in advance. Somebody took a concerted effort to conceal her body for a reason. The woman's feet and part of her limbs were protruding from the loose ground and leaves which had been carelessly maybe thrown over the body. The body was clothed in a brown silk dress, so there's 2 things with brown now instead of blue. And the stockings were of tan. So tan stockings seem to be pretty consistent. No shoes were found. That's consistent. Under the jurisdiction of Forester Homer St. Metzger. Well, I know a Metzger, so maybe there's a relation. But there's another name to follow up on, with headquarters here. Okay. Well, we're getting somewhere. Troopers seeking identification of woman found dead. So now we know who has jurisdiction. Troop F does, of Wyoming. So I wonder if Montoursville had barracks here or not, because that would have been closer. For a period from 4 to 6 weeks, an extensive investigation has been conducted by the Pennsylvania State Police at Williamsport, Sunbury, Lock Haven, and other cities without being able to locate anyone. Interesting. The body found was of a woman about 35. Now, we never had that before, but it was 20 to 40. So now they're saying 35 years of age, 5'2", not 5 foot. And what's that, 135 pounds, not 150. Had long, dark brown hair. Okay, so now this is important for our sketch. And they never before said long. I don't remember seeing that. I just remember seeing dark brown hair. So now it's long, dark brown hair. The upper set of teeth were in perfect condition. The lower teeth were partly missing. Two molars of the lower left teeth had been crowned with gold. That may mean something. Clothing was wearing a combination. Wow, now that we're getting specific. Size was at 38. White union suit. What the heck? How did we go from blue dress to brown dress to white union suit? Champagne colored stockings, no shoes, blue silk brassiere, at least I know what that is. New corsets with supporters attached, red and pink combination garters, and blue dress. Okay. What the heck? A white union suit. I don't know what that means. But this looks, if the troopers are seeking identification, it appears to me that the troopers put out this information right here. The troopers put this out. So this is most likely going to be accurate. So I'm pretty comfortable saying it's going to be a blue dress, but I like this, size 38. So this is giving me some good specifics here. So size 38. I'm going to put blue dress, but I'm not very confident in that, but somewhat that I can put it down here. Gold caps. Okay. State police are of the opinion that the body found was of a woman missing from this region. Anyone having any information relative? Interesting. All right. Another drink time. All right. Murder somewhat similar to the Broad Mountain mystery. With 3 bullet holes in the head, the body of a young woman was found lying in the brush. Okay, we know all this. Oh, right here. The body lay where it evidently had landed when thrown from a motor car. See? Big difference. Tossed from a car and being buried. That's something we got to figure out. Authorities are investigating the report that the body may be that of Grace Martz. Okay, we got a name of Sugar Valley, who disappeared from the city some time ago. So, possibilities. Jane Doe. Grace Martz. I'll follow up on that. The boys were picking berries. Okay, that's important. Now you're saying, why is that important, Kenny? Big deal. Well, when I go to the scene, if I can find a berry bush, I'll know I'll be in the correct proximity of where that body was. It lay about 5 feet from the road. Ooh, that is very good information. It was covered only by a few leaves and some brush. Are you kidding me? Well, which one is it? She's protruding from the ground? Or she's only covered by a few leaves and some brush? I gotta figure that out. But 5 feet from the road. All jewelry and other means of identification have been carefully removed. Ooh. That's potential robbery. Check on jewelry of that time period. How did they know it was carefully removed? How did they know she wasn't wearing any? You know what I mean? So when it says carefully removed, that means that the people, the investigators there, assumed that she had jewelry on, which means it might have been from that time period that people wore jewelry then. 5 feet tall. Her weight was estimated at 150. So we'll back up to 150. Dark brown hair. Now we know it's long dark brown hair. 2 gold teeth in the lower jaw are the only other features which can aid in identification. She was attired in a blue silk dress, blue underwear. Well, she was wearing a blue bra, it said earlier, so that makes sense that they match. No shoes. Okay. It's a tourist camp, huh? Visited by hundreds of persons weekly. He believed the woman had been dead at least a month. Identification appears impossible. Some good information on that one. Oh, here is the biggie. Car is found over 12-foot bank. That's important. 12-foot bank within 80 feet. This is so important because now I can go there and look for that 12-foot bank if it's still there. I've been up there. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that. Oh, I got to get up there. This is huge. The 12-foot bank. While police here have not abandoned the murder theory, the authorities now think it's possible that a motor crash caused the death of the woman. Within 80 feet of the body and down over a 12-foot embankment was a wrecked automobile. The police are trying to ascertain whether the woman had been alone or wrecked the machine, or if she had been accompanied. What became of the driver? The detectives say the relative location of the body in the wrecked machine seems to make it doubly certain that the woman had a companion. They suspect that the body was carried to the place it was found. Ooh, 150-pound body, 80 feet. I don't know about that. Wounds that were diagnosed first as bullet wounds may have been inflicted when the car was wrecked, it is said. And Dr. George Lady, there's another one. Laddie. George L. How did I spell that? Ladie? Ladie. Dentist. Another guy to follow up on. Suggested that the auto smash probably knocked out 3 of the woman's teeth. Well, guess what? They should still be there then. I don't care if it's been 98 years. I doubt a metal detector is going to find them if they're front teeth. They're not capped. But they should still be there. Police have established that the dead woman is not Mrs. Grace Herman, who had been missing from her home in Sugar Valley. Well, the Herman woman has been located in Newark, New Jersey. I'm still going to follow up on that. So, located, but let's follow up on that. That is big. Partly buried again. Identification appears impossible. Big rock, nothing new in that. Wrecked automobile found near body in Clayton County. This was on July 19th. So they found this is good for a timeline. So July, it took them that long? That's insane to me. If you find a body on July 15th and you don't find that wrecked automobile, which is 80 feet away, for 4 days, makes me question, the scene, how well the scene was searched. Meaning there could possibly, if she was shot 3 times, it's possible a handgun is found in that area. And another reason why we need to take a metal detector up there and look. Was killed in an auto accident and not murdered. Constituted the substance of the latest developments in the Clayton County tragedy. George Laddie again examined the teeth of the woman. Okay, so if he examined teeth of the woman, his dentistry, his records should have that. That's going to be important. Has announced that the 3 teeth missing from the lower jaw were knocked out in a struggle or in an accident. Okay. This fact, coupled with the discovery of a wrecked motor car 80 feet from the spot where the body was found and at the foot of a 12-foot embankment, I gotta find that, lends color to the theory. Authorities said that the woman met an accidental death. No clue to the identity of the woman has been found. There's Grace Herman's name again. If she was buried, she didn't die in a car wreck. Okay, unless she was a passenger and the guy was doing something illegal. But all right, so now go to scene. Find 12-foot embankment. Search 80 feet in both, in all direction. Okay, so that's what we have right now. Some more news articles that I had read that named the boys who found her. And I have to find that because they have to be interviewed and I'll have to write them down as well. But I wanted to just give you guys like a little day 3 summary of what I'm doing, going through, taking notes, and following up on. So thanks for joining me on that. So there you've seen the process of day 3, taking notes. There will be more days like that. That's just the beginning of it. But I got some leads in there, right, that I got to follow up on. The 12-foot embankment, so crucial when I get up there to the scene. That's going to be big if I can locate it. Small things like the berries. I'm sure when I highlighted that, you guys are like, well, why does that matter? They're picking berries. Well, if the berry bush is still there, you know that I'm in the right area. So I want to keep an eye out for that. The clothing description and how much it changes. But I think what I'm going to have to do is through all the articles, just write down everything in the stuff that doesn't have the description change as much or they're consistent. That's what I'm going to go with. As I showed you in one of the articles, and I believe I have it here somewhere, where it looked like the state police, I think it's right here. Trooper seeking identification of woman found dead. That seems to me like it was an early press release. And there was, specifics. 5'2", 135 pounds, long, dark brown hair. See, none of that was mentioned before. Before it was just between 120, 150 pounds, between 5 foot tall. Brown hair, nothing about long. So all this is specific. The 2 gold caps on the teeth, the dress, the size 38, and I don't even know what that is, but I'm going to have to figure it out. I know what it is, but I'm not familiar with women's dress sizes. Now, in the past, well, even right now, I guess if you gave me a bra size, I guess I can visualize that. You tell me 36C, I know what that is. You get 34A, I know what that is. But size 38, I don't know what that means. So I'll have to work on that, or somebody can help me out and point me in the right direction on that. But this white union suit, it's the first mention of that. I don't know what that is at all. So I'll have to research on that. The pink combination garters. Now it says red or pink. But so this is what I think I'm going to go off of. I think it's specific for a reason. And that's because it's the truth. So I'll keep this out. So that's important. The discrepancy between partially buried, thrown from a car, I got to get to the bottom of that. And I don't know how I'm going to do that. I wished in that report they would have said if she was, shallow grave, limbs protruding from the ground, then others just leaves and brush on her. That doesn't, it's so important. I got to figure that out, okay? Got some names. John Bailey from Lock Haven. I looked him up. I didn't show that on camera, but I seen that he did die in Lock Haven. I got a picture of his tombstone. I got to look up descendants from him, people that may have his records. J.E. Brown, the funeral director. Well, what funeral home? I have to figure that out. This George Laddie, who's a dentist, who's saying that her teeth were, or lost what, 3 teeth down in the bottom jaw, was from a struggle or an automobile accident. It's easy for me to pile on Mr. George Laddie and say, well, no joke. What, did she pull them out herself? Of course that's how she lost her teeth. But he looked at them, he examined them. My thought is, yes, automobile accident could have caused that, right? But wouldn't there be, I know she was buried for a month, but you should still be able to tell, and again, I'm not a pathologist and I don't claim to be, but there should be injuries to her face, to her lips, if her teeth were knocked out in an automobile accident. Even if it was a struggle, I guess, too, but 3, it said bullet wounds to the top of the head. So to me, right now, remember how I said theories can change and they can evolve, but right now, I'm thinking there was a struggle and she got beat up and that's how her teeth got knocked out, and then she was shot. Remember, it's possibilities versus probabilities. Yes, it's possible she was in an automobile accident and was buried. I don't know. I need to find out also the freshness of that vehicle. How long had that vehicle been there? Was the engine warm? Who did it come back to? There's got to be a way to trace that. There's got to be record of that. So I got my work cut out for me. What else did I write down here? You guys saw what I wrote down about Grace Martz. I'm not going to take their word for it, okay? I got to track down Grace Martz myself. I'm sure she's not alive, but if she has a tombstone somewhere, census records from the area, I'll be able to figure that out. I got to go to the scene, find that 12-foot embankment. The gold caps of the teeth. I thought that was a significant clue, but the more that I researched, it seemed like gold caps were what they did, but somebody had to put those caps in. She couldn't have done them herself, which means there has to be record of it somewhere to follow up on, right? So that's right now, day 3. Significant leads developed. That long brown hair, that's going to help when we come to a sketch. Also, that press release, I'm calling it a press release, from the state troopers seemed to indicate some specifics, which is going to help on the sketch as well. With the dress, no longer a brown dress, it's blue. Maybe it got misconstrued because she had dirt on the dress and bodily fluids from her decomposition stained the blue dress brown. So people there who observed the body initially said it was a brown dress. I mean, that could be, but it appears that it is a blue dress. So we're going to probably go with that, and the brown stockings and the pink or red garters. See, and garters to me, it's amazing how things in your brain work. So when I hear garters, I think of lingerie. Like, you know what I mean. But maybe that's not the case for the dresses in 1925. Maybe garters were something that was regularly worn. It's so fascinating. But a white union suit. So she's wearing a suit and a dress? I don't know what that means. I'm going to put this on the Facebook page, this trooper identification description. And maybe one of you guys can take that, make like an AI generated thing, or I know some people, or sketch people that watch this, because they've sent me pictures. Great drawers and artists could do something up with this, with that description. And we can get a face out. Maybe somebody will recognize her. I doubt it. I mean, listen, I'm a realist when it comes to cold cases, especially this old. But, as I said before, you have to try. Okay? I'm not going to rely solely on a sketch. But if we get to day 72 down the road and I have a good sketch and I'm interviewing a potential relative of somebody and we are sitting at her kitchen table going through old photographs and there's that and then there's the sketch, well, and they look similar, maybe we're on the right track. You know what I mean? So, it's just like I always say, when you work a case, you want to work it backwards from trial. Meaning, think of things that are going to happen at trial to you so you're prepared. For instance, you see a cigarette butt at a crime scene, but it's not in the search perimeter. It's a little bit out. You don't think nothing of it, but you want to be, so you pick it up. You don't put gloves on. You don't do anything. Just put it in there. Let the detectives handle it, right? Because you're a patrolman. You just pick it up. Well, then you go to trial and they're like, DNA, they sent that in for DNA and that came back to their suspect. And you're all happy because you collected it. But now you get to trial and the defense says, well, Patrolman Mains, did you pick up? Yeah, I picked that up. Did you have gloves on? No. Well, why not? Well, I didn't think it was part of the crime scene. Exactly. And you contaminated it. So how can you say it's my client's? You see what I'm saying? So think of it backwards. While you're there on patrol at the scene, if you see that, then you're like, ooh, could be something. I got to do everything correctly. So when and if it goes to trial, I'm not going to made look like a jackass. That's what I mean by working things backwards. Same thing in this case, cold cases. Think ahead, plan ahead. I'm already thinking about the graveyard visit, which is not something that I'm going to do right away. I know where she's at, but I got to get records. I got to, I learned this in investigating Billy the Kid with Steve Cedarwall when we were trying to figure out, well, mostly when he was trying to figure out where Billy the Kid was buried. And he found records of a sketch of where it was in relation, had measurements and stuff, so you had an idea of where he was. It's got to be the same way. There's got to be records of where she was buried. I read an article, it said that her burial was attended by a couple people, mostly from the church. There was nobody identified because they don't know who she was. But somebody knows. Somebody knows where she was buried. There's got to be records of that. So, that is for down the future. And again, the goal of that is once we can locate that, then we have to, I believe, petition the state to exhume the body. And usually you have to get family's permission for that. But we may not have family permission. We might not know who it is by that time. We may, but more than likely not. So, hey, we petition the state. We have to exhume this body. We know she's here because of X, Y, and Z. Okay? And we want to get DNA and then trace it through her family tree and figure out who she is so that way we can get her a proper burial and a proper tombstone so she's not forgotten. That's what's important here. That's what we're working towards. That's the goal. Okay? In every case that I work, there always has to be a goal. And the goal used to be solve the case. That's my job. That's when I was an arrogant detective. Now I'm just a confident detective who will say, listen, sometimes you can't solve it. All the effort that you did, you can't. Boy, I don't like saying that. I don't like saying can't. It's a hard time to solve it. It's just hard. Maybe there's not enough time here on earth to solve it. That's better. But what you can do is move it forward. So that way when another detective picks it up in the future, wow, look at all this great work that this detective did on the case. He was smart to preserve that evidence. He was smart to interview that witness. Things like that. So then that way he can now follow up. So you're moving the case forward in order to get resolution or closure, as some people say. You'll never get closure, but you'll get some sort of resolution to the case. So that's a goal. My goal here is technically, yes, to solve it, get her name. Might not ever figure out what happened to her. But let's get her name. And then work it backwards as to what happened. And I think we can do that. And we can all do it together. It doesn't have to just be a solo effort. I had the newspaper reporter contact me about wanting to do a story about this. And you guys know how I am about interviews. I don't do them. But for something like this, well, yeah, it's important. Okay? It's important for my community, where I live. Just like the Jolene Witt case, it's so important to Muncie. And I was glad to see how Muncie rallied and supported my 2 videos on that. And in fact, I got a call from a couple state troopers, and I very much appreciate it, that called me and thanked me for the video and said, you know, they apologized for the other troopers who treated me bad when I was working on that case. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and yeah, I appreciated it more than they know. And again, it just goes to show you can't hold an entire entity responsible for the acts of a few. Okay? So, dark brown hair, tan stockings, no shoes. That's important. I'm going to have to dive into automobiles of 1925. Now, if they would have said, you know, in 1979 Camaro, Trans Am, I would have a little bit more knowledge. But a 1925 car, not so confident about. Need to know more about automobiles. It's amazing in cold cases how you become not an expert, but you become knowledgeable in other areas when it relates just to a cold case. I got to become knowledgeable in women's fashion from 1925. Automobiles, 1925. Graveyard etiquette from 1925. Dentistry from 1925. You got to know all those things. And it's amazing, right? But there's a purpose behind all of it. It's not for fun, okay? Although, to me, it's enjoyable to work these mysteries. It's more enjoyable, you know, and it will be more enjoyable when we're all gathered around her final resting place with a tombstone that bears her real name and not Ravensburg Jane Doe. Then I'll feel accomplished. Then I'll feel as though we've done something great to move this case forward and give somebody the proper burial they deserve. So that's it for day 3. Thanks for hanging out. Stay tuned for day 4. We're moving along. So with that said, Mains out.